A week ago, I completed the 100-day project. And so this week I wanted to film a little bit of a recap / sketchbook tour of the challenge and sharing how the project went for me, what I learned from it, what I might have done differently perhaps, and also let you know what's next. So for this project, my goal was to paint / draw a sketchbook spread daily with the hope of developing or maybe more like solidifying a art style. And also I had been working with acrylic gouache a little bit and I wanted to improve my skills in acrylic gouache. So when it comes to the supplies, I used a Royal Talents Art Creation sketchbook in the pocket size. I completely filled an entire sketchbook, and then for the last, I think 20 spreads or so, I used a sketchbook I had started prior to the project, and I just used the rest or most of the rest of the pages in the little sketchbook. When it comes to the supplies I used to paint and draw, I used Holbein acrylic gouache, which I've really been enjoying using this medium. I only started using acrylic gouache, since like the beginning of the year mainly. And then I ended up doing a lot of mixed media spreads, and so I also used some colored pencils. There's 3 types of pencils I like. I like the Polychromos from Faber-Castell, the Caran d'Ache, I think the brand is Pablo Caran d'Ache. And then sometimes I'll use some Prismacolor colored pencils because they have some funky colors like this neon pink that I like. And then of course I did a little bit of graphite on most of my spreads, and I used Faber-Castell's graphite pencils, which are my favorite and what I've always used for my graphite work up until now. So I started this project without any specific constraints. So I didn't have a limited color palette or a specific theme. I just thought I would create something every day in my sketchbook using the supplies I mentioned before and kind of see what emerges from that, what I liked working with the most, and yeah, kind of see where it goes. So some days, like there was a few days I really got into blue colored pencils and really liked that, and then I went back to acrylic gouache, so a little bit of back and forth. Some days when I got really tired, I just used pen. And actually, I only drew a few pen drawings in the beginning of the challenge because I felt the first couple weeks of the challenge for me, for whatever reason, I was excited to get into the 100-day project, but at the same time, I don't know, it took me a couple weeks to really get into it. And drawing in pen was kind of an easy way to produce a sketchbook spread that was kind of low pressure, if that makes sense. So there's a few of those at the beginning of the challenge. I think I started finding my groove around this day. This is day 19, 20. Day 20, I felt maybe I'm onto something. I really love those poppies and kind of the color scheme I used, and also this key. I was looking to learn how to paint and draw metallic surfaces. And so it started with this key, and you'll see that the key has become sort of an added component of my visual language. I think it symbolizes unlocking something. You'll also see some recurring botanicals like these dandelions, because they were blooming everywhere at the time. And of course, eyes continue to be a part of my visual language. I especially like drawing them in graphite. And another element that's recurring, that's kind of carried over from the work I've done so far, are ribbons and also birds. I did a whole series last year on birds on ribbons in graphite, which you might remember if you've followed me for a while. And so I was kind of on a roll for a few days, painting ribbons and eyes and botanicals, the occasional animal. This is one of my favorite sketchbook spreads. I really love the color scheme of the toad, which is a little bit unusual, and then there's sort of this communication between the eye, which for me represents consciousness, but also just the act of observing. And then this toad is like they're communicating to each other a little bit. And also I wanted to learn how to kind of add movement to my sketchbook spread, and I think that's something that can be done easily with botanicals, like those tulips are sort of fluid. I also really like this spread, and like I said, I really went into it without a clear direction, and looking back at the sketchbook, I can see that I had stretches of where I felt very inspired, like those few days I felt really good about my work. And then there were times where it was really challenging coming up with an idea, or I felt like I was just, painting or drawing the same thing over and over. I like this one as well with it's like life as a mirror. Yeah, there was a little bit of an experiment with color. Daffodils is also a flower that came back pretty often. And playing with ribbons. Ribbons also are a way for me to add sort of this movement into a spread, into a piece of art. I really like this blackbird and all its ribbons. Poppies also were pretty recurrent in my spreads over time. This is what, day 37. I really love this spread. It's kind of this bunny asking you to follow them in this direction, which could be a portal of sorts. We have this little key that may unlock something down the rabbit hole. It's got this very Alice in Wonderland feel. And magnolias, of course, which was also the season when I painted this. Some spread I like less, like this one, but overall I felt really sort of good about this project for the, between day 25 until day 80. And somehow the first 2 weeks were hard to get into the project, and then the last couple weeks I was starting to be ready to be done with it. Another sketchbook spread I really love is a series of flowers I did. This is a peony, and then I did another poppy and this daffodil. And what I like about these spreads is their simplicity. There's a lot of details so that there's contrast, but at the same time they're fairly simple lines, sort of inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe's work, which I love. And so I enjoyed painting that. I feel this magnolia was a little less successful. I continued painting rabbits for a while. I think because also my work is very inspired by botanicals that bloom in gardens around where I live, and we also have a lot of bunnies. They're not brown bunnies, they're gray bunnies, but they're everywhere, and so I was very inspired to paint them. This spread was a bit more complicated in some ways. I really wanted to dive into more of the symbolism, and the peonies are sort of becoming this portal or this door to another world, and you have a key to unlock those doors. And of course, always the eye of the observer or consciousness itself. More botanicals and bunnies. I like the idea of exploring multiverses, and so this is kind of the same bunny in different versions of itself. Like the eyes look a little bit different, and this is a theme that I'd like to explore more going forward. This hydrangea didn't turn out very good, I think. Another bird and ribbons. This could also be potentially a new sticker. And again, ribbons continue. You will recognize this sketchbook spread if you watched my last video when I painted this on camera. And then I actually decided to turn this raven head into a sticker. So that's available on my shop if you'd like to purchase one. The links are in the description below. And I continued, yeah, like I said earlier, I wanted to explore how to paint metallic surfaces. And so I painted this bent spoon, both for the practice of painting a metallic surface, and then also for the sort of symbolism of bending spoons, as in reality can be bent, which is also maybe a theme I'd like to explore more in my work. So we have another poppy. I've done a lot of spreads with botanicals, keys and ribbons throughout. This one I also really like, this whale, and the ribbons in this case represent kind of their song through the ocean. Another raven, slightly obsessed. Another bird and ribbons. I also really like this zinnia flower. It's a very simple spread, but I wanted the flower to pop off the page, so I used a lot of variation of the same color. And yeah, I think maybe that would make a cute sticker as well. More flowers, and I'm going through some of this a little bit more quickly because otherwise this video is going to take forever. This frog with ribbon is also one of my favorite spreads. I probably have about 10 or 15 favorite spreads of this challenge. Yeah, what if a frog wore a ribbon? I just thought that was a cute idea. More flowers. This is an attempt at painting an eye instead of drawing it in graphite, which turned out okay. It's not the worst. I think it could be better. The skin tones, I'm not very familiar with how to paint skin tones, so something I'd like to learn more. I really love how those bluebells turned out though. I wanted to try painting something with a background, because as you can see, all these previous spreads, there's no background, it's just the paper in the back. And so I like how this turned out, and actually haven't really explored that more since then. And that was day 67, I believe. This sketchbook spread is possibly my favorite spread of all the 100 spreads I produced during this challenge. It started just me wanting to paint something very simple, like just ribbons. So I started sketching ribbons, and as I was sketching, I decided to add a little bird in the corner, and just like I had ribbons represent a whale song, I thought ribbons could also represent a bird song. And so I just really love how it turned out. And I probably will repaint this, you know, on a flat piece of paper or canva Yeah. And this started a little bit of a series. So I painted then a robin. I also did, oh, this one, I did another robin. This one was during a full moon, or the flower moon, and I was gonna paint just like a regular flower, and I decided to turn the center of the flower into the moon. I also really like this robin. This is a blackbird redwing. This day I just wanted to paint something very funky, and so I created this bunny toad. It's a bunny head on a toad body, and yeah, it was just kind of fun and funky. Kind of going more the surrealist route. I've also experimented with birds within birds. It's kind of like, you know how we have different parts of ourselves within ourselves, and so this is kind of the same concept but represented with birds. Those days I felt were very uninspired, at least in my view, and that's where I ended this sketchbook on day 77, and then I picked up on this sketchbook day 78. I think that was part of a video as well. I really missed using graphite, and yeah, I painted more flowers, and I started adding also stars in my spreads. So, you know, so little additions to my visual language here and there. I really like this black bird, this merle with a crystal inside of him. Another poppy. I realized I actually painted a lot of poppies. This spread actually, I had painted the poppy and drawn the eye, and I felt that it needed something else, so I painted the leaf after the fact. I love how the leaf blends in with the eye, or the eye feels like it's part of the leaf. It kind of represents how plants can sense us, and that's also a theme I'd like to explore more in the future. I painted a little moth, more poppies. This just was kind of a fun, it's apple envy. You know, this apple is green with envy because this apple has a beautiful bow on it. Another day I chose graphite. More dandelions. Then one day I just wanted to work on graphite and like how to depict eyes in different, looking in different directions, so I just focused on that. That's pretty fun. More birds singing. So some of those spreads look very similar one to the other, but I think painting or drawing the same thing over and over again actually is a great way to practice and to also have a record of your progress. I also really like this spread of the opening of a dandelion bloom. And then, yeah, more botanicals and eyes. This day I wanted to start something new and add circles in my sketchbook spread. So here again, sort of like, it's kind of, some of my work is symbolic, but I wouldn't always know how to explain it. I think it's just, is supposed to speak to your soul directly. Just like in nature, there's a lot of geometry and things that your brain recognizes without us knowing consciously. This is also one of my favorite spreads. I love peonies, and by the time I finished the project, peonies were starting to bloom. Also, there's more symbolism in here. The circle symbolizes spiritual, and the square symbolizes physical. Again, this is inspired by a crop circle. I don't know if you've heard of crop circles. Those are geometric symbols made in fields, supposedly by extraterrestrials. And there's a lot of them in England specifically. And they're all different and usually have geometric forms like this. And this is actually day 100. I sort of wanted to bring everything together with those symbolism of, you know, the eye, the crystal, stars, the ribbon, keys, botanicals, birds. This represents the chakra system. And yeah. So when I asked myself, would there be anything I would have done differently for this 100-day project? I think the one thing that I wish I had done is keep a little diary or notebook where I would write every day how I was feeling or what was inspiring me, or even like more of the challenges, because you know, you think you're gonna remember but you really don't. So I wish I had done that. I think that would be interesting to have a record of how I was feeling more in details, you know. Other than that, I think if I were to redo the project a different time, I would pick a theme. I think that would make the challenge much easier. When it comes to how I'm feeling about the project, whether it was successful or not, I would say I have mixed feelings about that. I feel that I did definitely make progress with working in acrylic gouache. But when it comes to solidifying a style, I can see like I have a sort of style for sure, but maybe that's not exactly what I'm going for, if that makes sense. I think there are themes that I want to explore further, that, like, you know, multiverses, the nature of reality and things like that, that would place me in a genre of more surrealism. So that's something I'd like to explore a little bit more going forward. I think I will keep working with acrylic gouache, of course graphite, and maybe reintroduce a bit more colored pencils. I don't really know that I necessarily want to make multimedia art. Maybe I just want to make some graphite series, some colored pencil series, and maybe some acrylic gouache series, if that makes sense. So it's all a little bit up in the air. I wish I had more clarity on my work. It still feels like a work in progress, and of course maybe it will, like, I feel like I haven't found my thing, if that makes sense. And at the same time, I have ideas at the back of my mind. Like, I have an idea of the vision. I just feel like I'm not totally there yet, and unfortunately it's hard to explain exactly what I mean by that. So I guess we'll see where the journey takes me next. Someone asked me recently if I would recommend doing the 100-day project, and absolutely yes. I feel that for someone who wants to maybe try a new medium or get better at a medium, you could also use a project like this to explore a new theme in your work, a new color palette. I think that could be a great way to do that. It does require discipline, but you can make this challenge as hard or as easy as you'd like. Like, I chose something that was kind of a medium hard. I feel that I could have, you know, done a smaller painting or anything like that would have taken me, you know, less time every day, or I could have made it easier by choosing maybe a specific color palette, for instance. But yeah, it's definitely a great experience, and there's a lot of different projects and challenges out there. And will I do it again? Probably. I mean, maybe not right away, because 100 days is a bit of an investment of time. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you watched till the end. I really do appreciate that. If you did, why don't you put a little palette emoji in the comments? And I'd love to know, have you ever participated in a 100-day project? And if so, what was your experience? Or is it something you might like to try at some point? And yeah, so going forward, I think this summer I will be filming a few more vlogs. So if you'd like to follow the journey along and you're not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. You can hype the video in the comments, share it with your friends. And yeah, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!